Good morning, everybody. What an amazing weekend. Amazing and like minded people coming together to listen and understand and really get deep into what's going on, not only in the nation, but um, the implications and the reality of what it's doing to our children. Of all the memorials and monuments I chose to come on my way out of town to stop at. I came to the Iwo Jima US Marine Corps Memorial for a specific reason. Um, you know, my husband is a veteran Marine Corps, and my grandfather um, was fought at Iwo Jima. And so when we talk about the hill on which to die on, there is no other hill to die on than education and our children right now. Um, any politician running for anything, you can't run and not know what's going on in education. And any politician that's in office, you cannot write legislation until you know what's going on in education. And so I did a show last week on, the sexualization of children, the history of it, and that we know the end game. Why are we not doing anything? Yes, World War II, we won, but if you look at the casualties of the Axis versus the Allied, we won at what cost? Uh, and so, at what point are we going to say that this is not just a problem, but this has been a systemic, a planned for a long time attack on our children, and our children being the targets? And so, I spent 2 days immersed in Dr. Lindsay um, talking about, you know, the Marxification and, the woke culture and, the things that we talk about on a surface, um, getting immersed in it to understand more than I even understand. But I want to specifically talk about, and he and I spoke about more research being done because into the sexualization of the children, and not just what it is, but the process, which is extremely deliberate, and why it's being done. And this is extremely important to me because, as a survivor of grooming and childhood sexual abuse, I can tell you firsthand it destroys childhood innocence. It destroys that one tiny window of time that children are allotted in their life that is minuscule in the span of their lifetime. So the argument of, is it wrong? Why is it wrong? It's not even an argument. Is that we cannot drift any further into the argument of, well, maybe because they say that porn is okay for children, that it is. It 100% is not. And we know that. And you have to man up. Yes, man up. Woman up. Um, and become the parent, which is the reason why you became a parent, is to protect your children at all costs. It means getting uncomfortable. It means having the uncomfortable conversations. It means speaking truth at all costs, because we are so deep into this that even though we have hundreds and thousands of parents that I know that understand what's going on, even if it's at a surface level, that are still quiet. We have teachers that are watching this happen, that either they didn't know, but now they know, or they've known and are not doing anything about it, even though they disagree. And so at some point, everybody has to answer for this. And so when I'm going to do more research, and Dr. Lindsay's going to help me, specifically on the show I did last week regarding, so we have history from it, whether it's the Bolsheviks, Gromsky, Lukács, um, all the way up to, and people know Mao. But guys, is that we've got dictator after dictator after dictator that has used this tactic to destroy children, to turn them against their parents, and to take over a nation. Unfortunately, the difference is, how did Mao died, but we're not at that place. So when Germany was defeated, Hitler died. Whenever Hitler died, and when Germany was defeated, that went that went away. So how is it that we had a world war to fight nations trying to have total world domination, but today, knowing 100 years of history, we can't look at this and say this is what's happening. I had the pleasure of meeting a wonderful woman from Virginia, from Venezuela, and that was a different perspective that I'd never heard the Venezuelan perspective, because those are countries that are not talked about and widely known. Um, you know, I've spoken with several members, in the Richmond area from a Chinese church, who say this is why my family fled Maoist China. This is communism, and we came to America, and this is happening here. And so you can't ignore the people that lived it, that left it, and are now, they left to go to the freest nation, America, the United States of America, the USA, land of the free, home of the brave, and have them tell you that this is how it is. This is how it starts. And the assault on children has been intentional, and I'm going to do an actual recap once I get home, but is that thousands and thousands and thousands of just our troops died in World War II fighting Hitler. So do I believe that this was strategically planned to happen now, when the greatest generation alive is dead, or too old to speak out? Because if my grandfather was still alive, because he landed on Iwo Jima, if he was still alive, I would be going to him, and he would be saying, what did 250,000 just in World War II, American troops give their lives for? Iwo Jima was a huge victory, but at huge casualties. 1 in 3 who landed. 36 days of being dug in on a tiny island. But the victory was changed the course of what could have happened regarding the Japanese invasion. So we have to think of this, because it is a war. The problem is that it is done in such a way that is covert. They have been mastering their skill at this. But there are books written, and he talks about Paulo Freire and and I'm going to go through the list of people that you need to start looking up beyond the major ones that we talk about, or he talks about. And so it's literally written to take the children. I mean, over and over. I know at least 15 times I've shown quotes from, whether it's Lenin or whether it's Hitler or Marx, about taking the children. This is how you do it. You take the children. But is that we have to start looking. We don't have. I'm going to continue to tell you until we do something about it, because you can run for office, you can be in office, you can want gun legislation, you can want veterans, more veteran rights, you can want all of that, you can fight for the people, but it's not going to mean anything, because if we don't save the children and save education, what we are fighting for guns, like in all of that, when these children, it's going to be a massive United States global takeover of these people, of these children. And he said what I said is, it's not like re-education. They're not being re-educated. They're being molded, because they don't have a sound foundational base. And so that's why children are specifically the targets. I mean, it is just a bunch of crazy people, but it's not just like, oh, these crazy liberals. Like, where did this come from? Like, how? No, like it's much more specific, strategic, and I'm going to really get into more about the implications, especially with transgender, because giving a child an identity, Dr. Lindsay spoke about, more specifically about like borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, and those types of splits in the personality are usually from improper adult relationships, whether it's parents, narcissistic parents, different things like that. So we have to look beyond the gender war that they've created and the race war, because the children that they say that they are serving are the children who are going to suffer the highest price. And not just at like equity is that they're not getting educated, not that price. We're talking about giving a child an identity that is not theirs, because now they've started talking about that childhood development is malleable. No, it's not. It's not. And you don't just get to say that after hundreds and even thousands of years of research on how childhood is formed, you don't just get to say all of a sudden that no, now we've decided that it's malleable. Yeah. I mean, they're even trying to take over archaeology. And you don't just get to say that all of a sudden because it doesn't fit anymore. And then we also don't get to sit there and say, okay, we're sitting and we're watching it happen over and over and over and over. So he offered us, we have some very some ways, but what it's going to take is our elected officials have to be held accountable, 100%, which is what I've been screaming. I don't need validation, but maybe you do, that what I've been saying is correct. And I don't know when the video is going to come out, but I do know that when it does, you need to pay attention and you need to watch every minute. I don't know how it's going to be edited, but you need to listen to every minute of it, because what's happening, you can see, I call it first round, and I've been calling it first round for a while now. First round done. They're completed. Those are the kids that are in high school that are protesting, or even in middle school that are protesting pride. They're having pride walkouts. They're screaming at school boards that they are Polly and Pan, and if you out them to their friends, to their parents, that they're going to get, beat. Is why aren't we talking? And I talked to Dr. Lindsay, and a couple other people from other states after last night about this. Is that, I mean, you've got the World Professional Association of Transgender Health. The people that if you are actually trying to serve these children, you should be listening to without a political agenda, who are saying that no, 100% children should not be self-diagnosing or proclaiming that they are something else. Because just imagine this is, so how many, I have girls, but I'm just going to say how many, parents, mothers of boys at some point wanted a Barbie, imagine, your child wants his fingernails painted. It's just natural child development. And then they go to school, and this is where grooming comes in. And is that grooming, the reason why he's been assaulted for this word is that we're not accusing anybody by using the word grooming of being a pedophile. Yes, grooming is a tactic. And this is where my life experience comes in, is that by continuously showing a child sexualized sexual images, the books, is that you change who that child is. You destroy the innocence that they are due for that tiny window in life. And then you implant this new identity that doesn't belong to them. And so at some point in their adulthood, which is when the split that we haven't seen yet, but knowing what we know about, borderline personality disorder and schizophrenia, how that happens is it's not like they're finally admitting, like, depression is not genetic. And so if it's not genetic, then it has to come from somewhere. And so by giving a child an identity that's not theirs, you not only lock them in and to a role that they can't get out of. And I'm not talking about, like, we talked about the two different ways when we talk about they can't get out of it last night. Not just that they can't get out of it because of the cult sense of what this is, and that was a huge part for me, was looking at it from a cult angle. But so is that they can't get out of it because they no longer they no longer know their identity, but they know that the one that they were given as a child isn't what fits them, because historically they would have evolved out of it. So it's your child's mental health. There is a mental health crisis, but it was not created by COVID. Let's say, was the World War II instability that the Bolsheviks used. That's exactly what's happening now. And George Floyd had a lot to do with that. And I'm not comparing George Floyd to Archduke Franz Ferdinand's assassination, being the the door kicked open, but it was the opportunity that they saw and they took it. And so it was COVID strategic. I'll say that. Um, Once you have the facts, you can't look at it as anything else. And but is it my last words before I sit here all day and get sunburned? Is they're taking the red pill. I can show you the door. I can't make you walk through it. All of the wonderful Matrix diatribes that I've been on recently, is that it's no longer an option to be a blue pilled parent, because as a survivor whose family did not take care of her, that would be me. Um, 30 years later, it still is a driving force in my family, and sometimes rips us apart because my parents could have done something different. My parents could have done something, but they didn't want to upset society. They didn't want to. They wanted to sweep it under the rug and act like it wasn't happening. And that's what's happening every single day, that we admit what's going on and we continue to send our children and we don't question it. There's many people that are continuing. I fought all year to try to keep my child in public school, and then the blaring Oh, look, it's letting me finish up. So anyway, I'm back in my car. I'm going to finish up now because I just got on here to see what was going on since my phone stopped being frozen because of the heat. So anyway, I'm going to finish up and leave you guys hanging right there. But I am going to say that I'm going to try and put all this together for y'all, a recap of the weekend. And then I'm going to go on vacation, which means I'm going to start writing, which is what has been my intent all along. I hate this camera, it's backwards. And but before I do that, I'm not going to leave y'all hanging, and I'm going to give you a recap of this amazing weekend. The Virginians for Children's First. Follow us. Check out our Facebook page. It's got tons of resources, 50 states SEL, data information, the law on it, how you opt your child out, how you collect what data has been collected on them, and how you file lawsuits if they violate your federal law. Go to our website. Follow us here. But I'm going to peace out from Washington because people running in masks is starting to freak me out.